Welcome back. Heather, we're back.
I know. I haven't seen you in forever.
I know.
And
Well,
I'm ecstatic.
you started a new job.
Yes.
And then I started a new job. So we have that to celebrate.
Yes.
And we have so much to celebrate. Heather, you just pointed out to me this morning that we have something to celebrate about our profile. So what do you want to share?
So we are now at 425 followers on LinkedIn. And this is just one of those things that when we set out and we started this, like we had no
Sorry, I had to. I was like,
oh no, perfect. Like we had no set goal. We were just like, we want to help people and we'll do it as much and as often as we can. And it's just, I don't know. I'm just so excited to see it continue to grow each
100%.
and every week. Yeah. So I'm just,
well,
thank you everyone.
Yes. Thank you, everyone who's followed along, joined us. We've already got several of you in the comments saying hi. Thank you for joining. All of you. Oh, we are so excited to have you all join us. We completely skipped introductions. So let's do it real quick. My name is Chris Lynn. I'm one of the co-hosts here on the Hire Me podcast.
I'm Heather Balcerek. I'm the other co-host on the Hire Me podcast.
And the Hire Me podcast is really focused on elevating today's top talents, creating video resumes to get people noticed in such a difficult market. I just saw the latest post on layoffs.fyi for tech layoffs, and we are now at 200,000 layoffs in the tech sector this year so far, which is heartbreaking. So again, we are a video podcast where we highlight different job seekers to get them noticed. So make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button wherever you're watching this, whether it's here on LinkedIn, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're doing that and subscribing and following us on whatever podcast platform you might listen to us to as well. Oh my gosh, we have tons of people here today for our live. This is incredible.
Yes, and I don't know, like it's weird because I think it's Joy. I think Joy is
Joy's
the one
Joy's the attraction today.
Is the she's the LinkedIn user.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give a name to.
Well,
but I love it.
And because of that, we have a fantastic guest for all of you today. We have Joy, the Joyful Recruiter. We are so excited to bring her on to have a conversation on, as you're job hunting and you're searching, how do you avoid toxic work environments, right? It's such a huge topic. Just toxic workplaces is just such a big topic, but especially when we're in this like job hunting mode, it might be easy to overlook some red flags.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's bring Joy on. I mean, I feel like the people are like, thank you, Joy, for inviting me. So I'm like, they're waiting. They're waiting for it. So let's bring her on.
Yeah. So again, everyone, we're going to bring her on right now. Make sure you, as you're having listening and we're watching us, make sure you add your comments, questions below in the comments, and just let us know what you want to talk about. Joy, welcome.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Chris, Heather. It's nice to be here with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us the quick 30-second, 60-second rundown of who you are for those of you who might not know who you are, but I don't know, the audience really seems to know who you are. Just in case they don't, tell us real quick who you are.
Absolutely. So my name is Joy. I am a seasoned recruiter. I've been recruiting for over 10 years. For the most of my career, I've been recruiting salespeople, which I love. I currently work in tech. And I am also a recruiting storyteller. I love writing content, and I am based out of Los Angeles.
Fellow Californian right here with me on opposite ends of the state. But yeah. Well, Um, Before we dive into toxic workplaces, especially since you are in the tech sector, can you kind of tell us, especially with the latest Meta layoffs that happened, what, yesterday or the day before? They laid off another, what, 4 or 6,000 people, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, can you kind of tell us the sense of what you're seeing in the market, especially around tech?
So what I'm seeing, a lot of people who want to get in tech, especially new grads, and a lot of people are just transitioning. People are still very passionate about tech, and they know it is an industry that I think is going to be around for a while. And for the most part, it pays very well too. So people, they still want to put their hat in the ring. They still want to work in tech, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with tech, right? Like tech is just seen as a disruptive entity or industry to be in, right? And tech applies to so many different things, especially like when we talk about AI right now, right?
I was just gonna ask, because we talk about like being a tech recruiter. That's like a buzzword. So would you like in just real quick, like what all expand does that cover? Like as far as what is a like a tech role? What does that cover?
Sure, that's a great question. So, I this is my first time ever working in tech. I have previously recruited candidates who have experience selling SaaS. And so I was able to transition into tech just based on my years of recruiting, go to market, but specifically salespeople. Now, I do not consider myself a tech recruiter, even though I have filled IT positions. And currently, I'm actually working on one, I actually filled a software engineer position, and the person is starting on Tuesday. Yay. But I would say as a recruiter, you can still get into the tech industry and not have a tech background because I don't really have a tech background, but I love recruiting enterprise salespeople that sell tech.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive into, the real topic at hand that you are very passionate about is toxic work environments. And from a recruiting perspective, tell us more about like what you're looking out for and what you want to kind of share with the world around job hunting and toxic environments.
So this is what I'll say. Prior to getting into recruiting, I worked in the entertainment industry, and everything you hear that is not so complimentary is true. And so I learned a lot about navigating through those environments. And I wasn't always perfect in identifying what was a toxic environment or not. But what I have learned is that a lot of times the interview process is an indicator of what a company's culture is. And this can start with the recruiter. Like, is the recruiter responsive? Some things are outside of recruiters' control. I know recruiters get bashed all the time, but at the same time, does this recruiter have a sense of urgency? Are they following up with you? Are they showing respecting your time? Ghosting is a huge problem. And so just some of those things I encourage candidates to pay attention to when they are interviewing with companies. Um, this is not a guarantee. Results may vary, but I think it's very important for candidates to ask certain questions, especially when they're interviewing with the hiring manager, the person you're going to report to directly. It's important to find out various things about this environment that you're looking to enter into.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an indication, right, of what's going on in the background. There are individual um, factors of like, again, like you said, the recruiters themselves and But then they may be a factor of like their own environment where they may be just like being pulled in too many different directions, or people are changing their minds constantly. Like I was talking with a hiring manager and they're like, they ultimately, didn't go with me during my job search, but they were like, well, they gave me feedback. Luckily, they gave me feedback. They're like, oh, well, we changed our mind like as we were going through the process. So, what are, I guess, Joy, some of the like real red flags to look out for versus things that are indicative of a toxic work environment versus like a ongoing iterative process in the recruiting cycle?
That's a great question. So I think it's important, especially for people who are from underrepresented backgrounds, to understand the environment that they're getting into. Because sometimes there can be a lack of diversity, and there can be a sense of feeling like you are on an island all alone. So a lot of times if you are in these environments, it's good to find people who are similar to you, I think. So you can have that support system because you're going to need it, because not everyone has cultural awareness, and not everyone is going to be sensitive that, oh, this person is from a different background, and the way they navigate is going to be different from the majority. So finding that support system, whether it's inside of the organization or outside of the organization. Now, by no means am I saying that someone should stay in a really toxic environment, but sometimes what can be construed as toxic can just be a misunderstanding. So having those open conversations. Now, some people think that they need to run to HR when they're having issues. This is what I'll say, and I want to be very careful how I say this. If someone chooses to go to HR, they should have a strategy as to how they want to navigate. And it is also important for a person to understand what HR does and what HR does not do before engaging with HR. So I am not a legal expert. I've worked in HR, but I would say do your research before going to HR with an issue. Be strategic, and there are times when you might have to plan your exit strategy from this environment.
That is really great insight, Joy. We did get a question in the comments, and so they wanted to know: could you help us understand why there is so much ghosting happening on the employer side?
Yes, I'll be happy to address that. And my apologies if I'm having technical issues. I don't know what's going on. So hopefully this isn't interfering too much. So this is what I'll say why ghosting. And we should talk about what ghosting is and what ghosting isn't. Ghosting is not if you apply for a job and you never hear from anybody. That's not ghosting. You were probably just, for whatever reason, not the person they chose to entertain for this role. But what ghosting is if you've interviewed with an employer and you've gone through several interviews, and you might have just interviewed with the recruiter and no one ever gets back to you and you're at a loss. You're wondering, what should I do? I haven't heard from anyone. Should I contact them? Now, I will say sometimes recruiters are very busy, and sometimes they are navigating various requisitions. And what that means is various open positions. And some recruiters work with coordinators. Not everyone has a coordinator, so they're doing all the scheduling themselves. Sometimes there is a lag in getting feedback from management. But I would say any good recruiter should follow up with their candidates and tell them, hey, the manager is traveling or whatever the case may be. We will get back to you with feedback as soon as possible. Unfortunately, ghosting will happen. And sometimes it is just because that company's culture is not that great. And sometimes, unfortunately, recruiters are just apathetic. So, that is truly the reason why it happens.
And I can understand that as well, because currently I'm a hiring manager. So, working with a recruiter to get these things done. And one of the things I set up with my recruiter was like, here's my timeline. Like,
Mhm.
like here's what I told the candidates when they talked to me. That way we
Yes.
were on the same page, and she knew what the candidates were expecting, based on like my timeline to give her feedback. And so to the recruiters out there, we thank you, because we know you're overwhelmed. We know you don't, hopefully 99% of you don't mean to ghost people.
Right.
But we thank you for the hard work that you do, because it is hard. There's a lot that goes into it. And the scheduling piece is, I wish I could buy my recruiter an ice cream cone, because she just went through scheduling some interviews around a very, very packed schedule, and she made it happen. So she's amazing. Let's see if there was anything else.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, welcome back.
Yeah, I had to drop off real quick. I had a kiddo like crying at the top of his lungs. I'm like, something's happening right now.
They do that sometimes.
Those kids.
We did have a couple people like chime in the chat about like what HR does. Right? So they protect the company, not the employees, is what Joseph added here.
Joseph said it, I did not.
Right? Tiara said they protect the company's best interests before their employees. Yeah, I agree. There are many things broken, and it is up to us to try to help make a difference. There are many companies that may be stuck in some older ways, that when we come in and we can say, hey, like, really, there's a better way. Like, and you can push for those things, and try to make that change wherever you can. All right, let's see.
Well, I was gonna say,
Yeah, go
Joy,
Chris.
to keep on like the toxic work environment and things. Like, what are your own, like, if you were advising a job hunter right now or a job seeker right now to be on the lookout for beyond ghosting and kind of like that
Mhm.
busyness, what are like maybe the one or two big red flags that you would advise anyone to say, like, you really need to look out for these things?
I would say just behavior during the interviews. Is someone asking you questions that are inappropriate or illegal? Because this still happens. In 2023, people are still being asked, "Do you have children?" and and the way that question, the reason why I was told this is the reason why some hiring managers ask, because they want to make sure the person can come to work every day. Well, there's a better way of asking that. Is there anything that would hinder you from working this schedule that is from 8 to 5? So anything that I would say is illegal, is inappropriate. Sometimes certain behaviors, I'll give you a great example. I was on the job hunt 3 years ago because I was laid off from my job of 10 years. And I had an interview. I never done Zoom interviews until 2020. And as I was interviewing with someone, he literally got up while I was answering his question and grabbed a drink out of his mini fridge. And in theory, it's like, okay, he was thirsty, that's fine, but a courtesy, I just need to grab a drink would have been fine. So to me, that was a red flag, just that type of behavior. Not respecting your time. Things come up, of course. Sometimes you have to reschedule. But if hiring managers and recruiters don't respect the fact that you might still be working while you're searching, and even if you are not working, your time is your time, regardless of your employment status. Respect for you and your time is an indicator of a possible, if they're not showing, I should say, if they're not showing you respect, that's an indicator of a toxic environment.
Yeah. And you would think that respect and kindness are kind of like these automatic behaviors and things that are just basic human interactions and foundational human core like values, right? But unfortunately it's not. Do you have a sense as like why some people just kind of throw respect and kindness out the window?
Yes, I do. I think sometimes it depends on the industry and sometimes the companies you're interviewing for. Um, I've noticed for, and I'll say it, certain sexy companies, there there's this elitist attitude that you should be happy that they're even entertaining you. So, and I think now with a lot of layoffs, people are being humbled right now. And a lot of these people are recruiters. And so I just think I understand certain companies, they want the creme de la creme, but just not appreciating people and not showing them respect. And I like more of a down to earth type of interviewing process where you can build rapport with the recruiter, with the hiring manager. I mean, as someone said recently, and I agree, it's kind of like dating. And pay attention to those first dates, because if the first date doesn't go that great and your gut is telling you it's not right, you probably should not go on that second date with that person.
I was just typing into our little private chat here. Interviewing is more like speed dating, right? Like you only get like 30 minutes per person, and if they like you, they'll move you on, right? They'll is it swiping right is a good thing? I've never used a dating app.
Yeah, me neither. Sorry.
Okay.
I have no idea. Someone should put in the comments.
Yeah,
Is it
let us know.
swipe
Is swiping
left,
right the
right?
good,
Yeah.
or yeah, which way is the good way?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know either.
Someone will educate us about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I met my husband the old school way at a bar. So, all right. So there was a comment here in the chat from Aubrey. Said toxic workplaces. Look out for a culture of overwork and burnout, overly political. It's what you say and who you are aligned with over your actual work output, not valuing people's contribution, but always wanting more from them. See, overwork and burnout. It's the cycle, right? I want to talk about this piece a little bit. This culture of overwork and burnout. What are some of the things that you see or you've seen that are red flags for that, like phrases or questions that could give an indication that that's part of the culture?
Shout out to Aubrey. Hi, thanks for coming. Uh, I I think, and maybe this is not a direct correlation, but when I see things like scrappy, willing to roll up your sleeves and take on the world, in theory, that's not bad. I think you should want to be diligent and roll up your sleeves and do the work. But a lot of the way certain job descriptions are written, like you could tell, okay, these people want me to work like 15 hours a day. No, nope, not doing that. Um, so I think just certain verbiage, even the term "we're looking for a rock star," sometimes that means workhorse. So
I agree.
just reading
Yeah.
the job description, and I know I've become way more savvy in the last few years. Like when I was looking for a new role last year, I would just read some job descriptions. I'm like, okay, this is what they're actually saying. Yeah, no, next. I swiped left or right or something.
Yeah.
Dan, you are right there. Yeah.
True, Dan.
This is true.
Yes. Yeah. That is so true.
And I know we're about to wrap up because we're only a 30-minute live. And of course, in true Heather fashion, I just forgot what I was going to say. So
it's all right. Well, what I'll say is thank you everyone for chipping in. I'm seeing some, in the comments, some of your experiences that you're sharing. Thank you for sharing them in this forum. B, I'm so sorry to what I'm seeing happening to some of you out there. And I know those aren't isolated incidents. So just know that those experiences are not okay. And if you have a way to report them as you're interviewing to other people within that organization, I think it's important to call that out. If they're making some of those comments to you directly, just don't allow it. Shut them down. Know that you've set your boundaries. Those things just are not okay. But thank you everyone for chipping in, joining, interacting with us. Joy, I guess any last thoughts before we wrap? Like, where can people find you? What do you want to tell people that are either job hunting or recruiters who might be watching this as well?
Yes, I would say definitely connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already. I have no idea how algorithms work, but I do write content. So I would say go to my page. Some of my posts are featured, some of them are just in the post, because I provide a lot of content around like experiences I've had, experiences that others have had, and things to avoid, things to think about. But I want to say this is a great time for empathy. I've been in the staffing world for longer than I'll say, but I've never seen things like this before. This is an interesting time. So I just want everyone to be encouraged that things will get better. There is a great community on LinkedIn. I have met some of the best people I know on LinkedIn, and that includes you too as well. But
thank you.
Have that sense of community. Put yourself out there too. Network. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, by networking, you'll definitely get a job in like 15 to 30 days. But it's good to have that sense of community. But yeah, follow me, connect with me on LinkedIn. And also feel free to DM or email me as well.
fantastic. Joy, thank you so much for being here. We will get this show wrapped up. Everybody, make sure you connect with Joy. She's amazing. And Dan said in the chat he's happy to help you with the algorithm stuff. If y'all aren't already connected, y'all need to be.
Yeah.
No, we're
Dan's
connected.
great.
Thank you, Dan.
That's good. So, all right. Well, let's see. So, Joy, we're going to take you off the stage and we're going to close it out. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
We may have to bring you back again because we could continue to talk for another hour. So,
yeah. There's so many people have added questions and comments too that we could definitely do this longer if we needed to. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Joy, thank you again so much.
All right. Thank you, Joy. All right. So, wow, this is like a super fast 30 minutes. I'm overwhelmed with like thoughts in my head. Two things I want to just point out that I saw coming around in the chat. So Joseph Dunmore, he asked about how to reach out to hiring managers. Joseph, we'll talk about that because that is very key. And so we'll put that on the docket to maybe touch on next week, or as soon as we can. And there was another comment about a red flag. I could absolutely do a whole episode on this, the thought about a team having a family culture, because it is sometimes misconstrued and can be a red flag as well. So thank you for all of the comments and questions today. Chris, I will let you close this out.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us live and watching this. If you are watching this or listening to this after the fact, make sure you are following us and subscribing to the Hire Me podcast, either on YouTube, LinkedIn, or wherever you get your podcast, or better yet, all three places, because then that just increases our reach as well. If you like this, make sure you send this and share this with someone who might benefit, maybe a job seeker who could use some of this advice. The other thing too is if you are job hunting and you would like to be on the Hire Me podcast, again, this is something that Heather and I just do for free. We no cost, no strings attached. We just want to help elevate you and your talents. You can always connect with us and get scheduled on our calendars here. Pull out those phones right now. You can scan either Heather's calendar or my calendar and uh, get put sorry, I lost words. You can get on our calendars to record your interview real quick and easy. It's 15 minutes. It ends up on average being around, I think we're at like a 9-minute average per video, so and
Because I'm
podcast. So
long-winded. Yes.
yeah, me too. It's okay. I know. I realized the one that I just released this week, I was like, oh, I was talking way more than I should have. But again, we want to highlight you as the job seeker or job hunter, and just want to
Yes.
help you out. So thank you all again for joining us. Heather, any final thoughts, last words?
Yes. Last week, I could not remember the other person that got hired, and it is Brittany Wilson. So, congratulations, Brittany. We're so excited for you and your new role. And we love that she was on the Hire Me podcast. And if it helped in any little way, we are excited about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining and hanging out with us and having a conversation. We will see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.